think I'm live. I think I'm alive. I've never done this before. Yo, YouTubes. A couple months ago, it was several months ago, earlier this year, my chaplain said, "Have you ever thought about keeping a diary?" I was like, psh, I'm not some high school girl that reads Twilight, and no, I don't diary. And then it's funny. Yes, I guess I diary because that's what I guess my videos are, a diary. They're a video diary. I guess that's also called a vlog. That's the word that people use. And frankly, I'm hoping that no one gets on here and watches this, because in my natural state, I don't like people and I don't like talking to people. However, I wanted to, I guess, kind of use this as a video diary to document some things. I've been, lots of things have been on my heart and in my head and in my life here lately. So I have been using video to document things for a long time, and I guess it just kind of makes sense that I would do this. So right now it's December 1st of 23, and I'm on my way to go get propane. Lord willing, and the creek don't rise. I use that phrase a lot, and you can see people kind of just roll their eyes when you say Lord willing and the creek don't rise. They think, oh, this guy must be on drugs or something. But there's a good reason that I say that, and that is, you know, there's the Bible verse about making plans. There's the country song, if you want to hear God laugh, tell him your plans. We get all these plans and ideas, and we're like, this is what I'm doing today. This is what I've got planned. This is what's going to happen. And we think we just got it all figured out. And God has a way of just totally derailing your plans. So here lately, I have been trying to spend more time in God, seeking his will, seeking him, trying to do what he wants me to do. And I'm on my path, I'm on my azimuth, and this is the direction I'm going, this is what I'm thinking about, this is what I'm going to do. And God just is like there's one person watching. God comes through my life just like a freaking freight train and just derails me, and it just slaughters me every time, and it's always a blessing. So I have my plans, and I think I'm going to get propane, but maybe they got off of there. That's funny. They probably got on the video and thought, oh, this guy's talking about God. I don't want to. Don't care. Don't have time for God. That's fine. So I have my plans, and I have what I think I'm doing, and God comes and derails me, and it slaughters me, and every time it is always such a blessing, and it is so much better than what I have planned. And I have several stories that I could share about that. But anyway, I'm not going to share the stories because I came here to document something today, and that is beyond the garden. This is a concept that keeps resurfacing time and time again in my life. So I thought I've never documented it, so I thought I should actually document it this time. So I think the first time I ever wrote down Beyond the Garden was 2006. It may have been 2007, but it was before I joined the Army in 2008. And at that time I was into fantasy, J.R.R. Tolkien, and I wanted to write my own fantasy book, and this was going to be kind of the theme of what I wanted to write. And since then I've totally forgotten about that, totally gone away from that. But this theme keeps re-manifesting itself time and time again in my life. And I don't know, this Beyond the Garden thing, I don't know if that's just something I fabricated. I don't know if it was a thought that God gave me and is encouraging me to develop, like he gives us talents and he encourages us to invest them and to make something out of them. I don't know. I would like to speak to that too, because a lot of times we have thoughts and we don't know where they come from. We have intentions of our heart. We don't know where they come from. We don't know if they're from ourselves. We don't know if they're from God. We don't know if they're from the pit of hell. The only way you can know with any level of certainty is to get in the Word and to seek God. Seek God in everything. Ask, seek, knock. That's what you have to do in order to make sense of anything in this world, anything in this life. the reference for that, when Jesus said, "Who do men say that I am?" And, "Okay, Peter, who do you say that I am?" And Peter said, "You are the Christ." And Jesus said, "Good job. Man did not reveal this to you. God revealed this to you." Peter had thoughts. He didn't know where they came from. They came from God. Like 3 verses later, 3 or 4, something like that, Jesus began to tell his disciples that he must go into Jerusalem and suffer many things at the hands of the Pharisees and the leaders. And Peter said, "Nope, that's not going to happen, Jesus." And Jesus looked at Peter, the same dude who just said, "Good job, Peter. You are the rock that I'm going to build my church on." That same dude, like later, he said, "Get behind me, Satan." So Peter couldn't tell. Jesus said, "Get behind me, Satan. You haven't the things of God to tell." He thought he was doing good in both cases, saying good things. And in both cases, he had thoughts that he couldn't identify where they came from. And the same thing is true for all of us, for everyone. The heart is deceitful above all things and desperately wicked. Who can know it? There is a way that seems right to a man, but the Lord measures the intentions of the heart. So that was a long parenthesis, or what's the grammar phrase for a modifier? I don't remember. Anyway, prepositional phrase? No, whatever. Anyway, this beyond the garden thing, I don't know if I made this up or if God revealed this to me, but it seems to hold some good solid truths. And that is that's kind of a thing I've been seeing, that God is truth, and that truth it has many facets. It's like God is a light that shines out in all different directions, and it is true on this azimuth, God is true on this azimuth, God is true on this azimuth. And if you know about compasses and magnets and stuff, you know about azimuths. God created man in his image, and the closer you get to God, the more you understand God, and the more God's character and nature they reverberate within you, similar to, like, there's an instrument called a hardanger fiddle, and you play, it's a fiddle, it was invented up in Scandinavia somewhere, I think, and you play a D or whatever, and there are drone strings that resonate sympathetically. So the note that you're playing, the note that God's playing, that note reverberates through the bridge, through the soundboard, to the other parts of the instrument, and other strings vibrate sympathetically because they are in tune, and they were designed to reverberate with the note that you're playing. Well, the same thing is true with God. The closer we get to God, the more we seek God, the more we seek his face, the more time we spend in him, getting to know him, the more we just naturally gravitate towards God and understanding him and reverberating things that, God is that light, and we are lenses that shine God through the darkness. And those things are true on all different azimuths. And yeah, it's like when Moses, I can't remember the name of the mountain. It was Sinai or Horeb, I think. He was up on the mountain. He was hiding in the cleft of the rock. God covered the cleft of the rock, right? Because if Moses had seen God, it would have killed him. God is so intense, so brilliant, so luminous, so overpowering in everything, that if Moses had seen God, it would have killed him. So God had to hide Moses from his power and majesty and glory. And as God passed by, he removed his hand, and Moses only saw the backside of God. And just from that very short duration of time that God spent there directly in that Moses spent there in God's presence, when Moses came back down the mountain, he was so transformed by being in the presence of God that his face shone to the point that it terrified people, and he had to cover his face. So that is the kind of the nature of God, and the nature of the way that God works through us. And going back to Beyond the Garden, that's Beyond the Garden is where we are, but that's not where we started. We started in the garden. We started in the garden with God, and God created Eden, and it was perfect. God looked at everything he created. He said it was good, and God was perfect. God created man perfect. Sin had not entered the world yet. The garden had everything that we needed. We were in the garden that God created for us, and I got to check my notes. I kept trying to make this video and I kept getting sidetracked, and then I decided to take notes and do it live and see what happens. We were created in the image of God. God was perfect. That was as close as we were ever going to get to God. We were there with God in the garden. And then once sin entered the world, things changed on a universal scale. And you know the story, the serpent, the tree of knowledge of good and evil, you will not surely die. Man was deceived. Well, the woman was deceived first, and then she gave the fruit to her husband. Through Adam's fall, one sin for all. A lot of Christian scientists and philosophers and theologists and people who are way smarter than me, they think that that's when entropy was kind of activated. That's when God, when perfection died and sin entered the world. They think that's where the second law of thermodynamics took effect. I don't know. And it's a moot point. It doesn't really matter, but I gravitate towards that thinking, but I don't know. It doesn't matter. But from there, a cascading, the dam was burst, and it just cascaded and overflowed everything, and it affected everything. And from that point, of course, the soil was cursed, and God said, by the sweat of your brow you'll till the soil, and it will not produce its fruit for you. And man was kicked out of the garden. That's where, if not physical, dimensionally, the universally accepted definition of entropy, even if that didn't initiate at that point, philosophically, that's where entropy entered. And we have been drifting further from God. We were kicked out of the garden. The soil was cursed. We were cursed. The serpent was cursed. You also had the first prophecy come out of that too. The seed of the woman, crushing your heel, biting his heel, crushing your head. Anyway, we have drifted further and further and further from God since that point. That is the de-evolution of mankind. And we were kicked out of the garden. So that is the first bullet point of beyond the garden. That's what beyond the garden means. We are beyond the garden. We can't go back to the Garden of Eden. No matter how hard we try, we want to, and we can never get there. It is sealed away from us. It was probably removed from the earth in Noah's flood. Don't know for sure. But we do still have many invisible attributes of God that are manifest through the visible things in this universe. There are scriptures about that. The fact that we were made in God's image, I think that's why I like gardening, because God likes gardening, because he made a garden for man. So a lot of things that we like, a lot of our hobbies, they come from God, because we were crafted in his image, to his likeness, to like the same things that he likes. So I think that the reason I like gardening is because God likes gardening, and that's cool. That's awesome. But we live in a fallen world. No matter how hard we try, no matter how hard we labor and toil, it will always be in vain. It will always be futile. There will always be a temporal aspect. Entropy is always at play. Everything that we do, it always comes to nothing. Very small is the yield from anything that we do in life. And it's temporal, and it's here today, and it's gone tomorrow, and it will all be burnt with fire in the end. Nothing lasts. You can't take it with you. So that's where we are. Nothing in this natural world can save us. No matter how hard we labor, your plants are going to die. They're going to die from drought. They're going to die from aphids are going to eat them up. They're going to freeze to death in the frost. They're going to get powdery mildew. Your plant, they're all going to die. All of your efforts, they're all for nothing. Your gold's going to tarnish. Thieves are going to break in and steal it. This is like a fundamental universal truth that is true on many levels. It is God's truth that we are fallen, and there's nothing that we can do. No works can save us, ever. There is no cure for mortality. So we need a savior, and I hope I'm going down the right road. I'm trying to take the long way around because I just want to talk, and my destination is only like a mile from here, but I got lots to say, and I can't fit it into a mile worth of road unless I drive real slow, and then I'm going to make people real mad. So where are we at? So, I want to speak to caveman real quick, because I call myself a caveman all the time. I call myself a knuckle dragger. And I like that imagery. I like the way that comes across, because I'm dumb. I'm a caveman. I'm not organized. As men, we tend to like compartmentalize information, right? Like, it's like our brains are like an Excel spreadsheet, and we got all these different tabs open, we got all these different data boxes, and there's like a value in every box, and none of it's connected, and the formulas don't work half the time. There's errors in the logic, and there's different pages, and you can't have all the different pages open at the same time, so we don't always see the big picture. We don't always connect the dots. That's kind of like the scientific, graphic, mathematics side of it. The telling that same story in a different way is saying, I'm a dumb caveman and I can't figure things out because I'm lost and I'm broken. That's like the philosophical implications. And we didn't start out that way. And that is so contrary to what you read in, the Genesis account, which is history, and it was history forever, and then man came along with this man-made idea that we evolved, that through millions of years of entropy, of things going from organization to chaos, and from elements becoming more stable and downgrading from less stable to more stable, evolution and the evolution of elements, it really defies the laws of physics. But that's what they say. Through millions of years of entropy, interwoven through all of this, entropy allowed things to become more complex and more vitality was induced by accident, and blobs got legs, and then we had thoughts, and then words, and then we made society, and we made morality, and we made all of the things from accident, from things downgrading and breaking over time, which is ridiculous. That it doesn't make sense on many levels. But anyway, God's story is different from man's story, and where we are is we are fallen, and that's the kind of the opposite of what the human made-up version of that story. It's like it's flipping it on its head and saying that we didn't fall, that we're getting better with time, which is not how anything in physics works. Things don't get better with time; they always get worse. So that's the first big implication, is that I'm a dumb caveman because I'm beyond the garden. And if I was still in the garden with God, I would be naked, walking around, eating a banana right now, and that would be totally cool in my little tropical paradise. But I'm not. That's not where I'm at. So I need to recognize where I am. On that note, I had to take down notes because I've got way too many thoughts that I want to document here, and there's no way I can remember them all. Caveman, the fall. Okay, recognizing where we are. So that's like part of the scientific process. And Adam, in the book of Genesis, God gave Adam the very first known order of science was taxonomy, when God brought all the animals to Adam and had him name things. And that is still like the first step in the scientific process, is identification, and taxonomy. So that's really cool. And that's an order of science coming out of the very first couple chapters of Genesis. That just speaks to the character of God, that he is order, he's organized. And you had Adam had a son named Cain. I believe son had a Cain named Enoch. Enoch built the first city that we know of. So right there, right from like the very third generation of man ever, they were building cities already. So they already had society, they already had an understanding of like engineering and construction and all that stuff. So the further that we got away from that, that's how we devolved into cavemen. And I am such a dumb knuckle-dragging caveman. So from the fall, we have just descended into all kinds of ungodliness. We are beyond the garden, all right? And through the process of this natural world, there is no hope for redemption. That's another key bullet point. nothing in this natural world can save us, you know. And philosophers and scientists, they argue about the beginning of the universe and whether or not there could be other universes. If there were, could we know them? Or the fact that we think that there might be other things out there speaks to the fact that there are multiverses, and they've got all of these theories and hypotheses and all this stuff. But there is nothing in this natural world using observational science that we know of that can ever save us, that can ever give us immortality. There's only one thing that can do that, and that is Jesus Christ. It is grace through faith, and that is it. And I am rambling, and my thoughts are not organized, and that is because I am a fallen human. I am a knuckle dragger. I've got all of these Excel spreadsheets in my head, and none of them like crosstalk and make sense half the time. So, number 2, my big second bullet point for Beyond the Garden is gardening. The whole process of gardening, and I mentioned this already. I think that the reason I like gardening, it's one of my hobbies, is because God's fingerprints are everywhere, and He programmed that into us. Ooh, I'm gonna go that way. He programs so many things into us that are there if you just look for them. And this ties in perfectly to this bullet point. But first, gardening for us, because the soil is cursed, we have to labor so hard, and there are so many things that go wrong. There's always loss associated with everything. Attrition is it is woven. All of our best efforts, we try to do everything right. We try to get the soil dialed in. We try to place plants where they will thrive according to their sun exposure that they need, and the nutrients and the drainage that they need in the soil. That's a really cool house. We try to use all the principles, all the things that we know, but the whole time we are trying to take something that is not natural and trying to just manhandle, wrangle it into submission underneath us. And that was one of the kind of the charges of the Genesis account, is that we were given charge of the earth to subdue it. And we're trying to do that, but it fights us the whole entire way. And so we are lost, like laboring in vain, trying to make things happen that are temporary and that don't last. And the whole time that we're doing that, we are missing out on the big picture. No through traffic, posted private property. I gotta turn around here. I'm gonna get shot at. Just kidding, probably not, but maybe. I'm at someone's drive, and they have made it very clear they don't want visitors. So the whole time that you're laboring in vain, and your thoughts are totally focused on your little garden, on your little, let's call it a sustenance garden, like you're just trying to scrape out a living, scrape out a survival for you, your family, and your eyes are down here on this earth, on your little garden. And there is all this heavenly glory that you're missing out on. And I need to read my bullet points. Yep, wrangle it under submission. We are totally focused on trying to take things that we can't make work, and we are doing our very best to make them work. And there is a limit to what we can make work. That's one of the joys of what I do. Exotic gardening, zone pushing, trying to make things work that aren't naturally supposed to work. But nature always reverts back to nature, dust to dust. And everything, it's all in vain. It's all futile. And everything that we look at down here on earth, it distracts us from the truth. There are cases where people, through their pursuit of truth, through looking at the natural world, they find God. And that's awesome. That doesn't happen very often. But there are some scientists and philosophers who started out as atheists, and in their search and their quest for truth, they discover, well, God's fingerprints, the fingerprints of a creator, are everywhere. The world couldn't have accidentally sneezed itself into existence and had all of this design built into it, established upon all of this mathematic principle and programming language that governs the universe. All of the laws, DNA, the ridiculous complexity of everything in life, every system, every cell, every solar system, the way that gravity works, the way that math works, it all speaks to a creator and to a language that the creator uses, you know. So if you are just looking at your garden and you're not looking beyond the garden, that's the second big beyond the garden, is that if you're just looking at your little garden, you're missing out on all the heavenly glory. That Bruce Lee quote from Enter the Dragon, it's like a finger pointing to the moon. Don't lick a finger or you will miss all that heavenly glory. That has nothing to do with anything. I just like that quote. So, the verse that really sums this up, and I can't remember where it's found, but the natural man receiveth not the things of the Spirit, neither can he know them. They are foolishness unto him. And this goes back to Peter saying, you are the Christ, and Jesus said, God revealed that to you. A lot of times when we say we search for God, and we say, nope, God's obviously not real. Because if he was real, he would just come down here and show himself. And you know, I've got a friend who's an atheist, and he likes that little joke or meme or whatever it is. You know, do you think the reason that God doesn't show himself is because he's afraid of his creation? Which, of course, that they don't mean that. What they're meaning is God's not real, and if he was real, he would obviously just come down here and say, hey, what's up? But that's not how God works. I love the story of Elijah when he was in the desert. And God, he was like seeking God and looking for signs from God, or looking for like the voice and the will of God. And there was the raging wind, and there was the earthquakes and the rending of the rocks. There was all this like ridiculous, what we would call acts of God nowadays. And God was in none of them. What God was in, where he found God, was the still, small, quiet voice. And I love that, because we want the big, overwhelming freight train horn evidence just blasting through our lives. And that's not how God works, at least in this day and age. It is always the still, small things. If you ask and you keep on asking, you're going to find. But if you ask and you just say, okay, nope, I didn't hear anything, God's obviously not real, then you're not really asking. You asked for 2 seconds and then gave up. That's not the intent of ask and it will be given. Seek and you will find. Knock and the door will be open to you. So, the second big beyond the garden bullet point is look beyond the garden. Seek, knock, ask. One of my favorite recent Christian songs is it's a metal song. It's by a metal Christian band. And it's such a simple song. And the singer of the song, basically the whole substance of the song, he says, lead me onward, I will trust in you. Through the valley, through the desert, to quiet waters. Lead me onward, I will trust in you. So that's, if that's what you are seeking, if you are seeking things beyond the garden, you will find God. So the third bullet point here for beyond the garden, this is almost 30 minutes and I don't think I've said anything awesome yet. So the third bullet point for beyond the garden, I'm just going in circles. This is awesome. The third bullet point is that we are beyond the garden, but we are not home yet. So the verse that I have written down is continue to work out your salvation with fear and trembling, because this ain't it. So often in life it seems like here's my will, here's what I want to do, and then here's God's will way over here. And those two things, they don't match up, and obviously they don't. The natural man and the holiness of God, those things don't match up. And you think, if I follow God, I'm only going to do what God wants, and I don't get to do all the things that I want. Cool, that's a great realization. That's probably true for most things. However, Jesus also said, I have come that they may have life and life more abundantly. And the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. I like the testimony of Brian Head Welch. I don't agree with everything that he says, but he is the guitarist for Korn. He was, and I think still is. And he, through the process of his brokenness, he came to find Jesus Christ because he had everything that he wanted in life. Cars, money, drugs, sex, fame, guitars, everything. And it left him so empty and so hollow. And then someone shared just some random Bible verse. Come to me, ye who are weary and burdened, you who labor, and I don't remember all the different versions, but that's the general intent. And he said, yes, that's me. I am broken and empty and weary. I toil and I labor, and I'm empty. I have everything I want in life, but I'm empty. So he prayed to God, and he has found seemingly satisfaction in Jesus Christ, and that is totally radical. So, the Bible talks about new wine, and I'm a recovering alcoholic, so I can attest to this. The new wine of Jesus, Jesus said, come to me, all you who are weary. My burden is light. What is it? My yoke is, man, I misquote scripture all the time, which is horrible. My yoke is easy and my burden is light, or something to that effect. And he talks about being the bread of life and the wine of the new covenant, and the things that Jesus will give you, the things that God will provide to you through the utility of love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control. Those are mostly things that as men, we don't care about those things, or at least we say we don't. We don't care about emotional things at all, but there is utility in them. There's utility in praise. And like John Piper talks about, the hedonism of Christianity, not hedonism in the worldly sense, but in the biblical sense of having life more abundantly and finding satisfaction, because you don't get saved just to go to heaven. That is the end state, but that's not the only benefit that you reap from looking beyond the garden, from beyond your little plot of land. The benefits that you get, and this goes back to, there is the truth, and it shines through many different lenses, and it's true on many different azimuths, on many different planes. And just like beyond the garden, it has many different meanings, and there are truth in all of those meanings. To me, I find truth in all of these things. So we are beyond the garden, and gardening is great, and it has utility, but it's not a state. Beyond the garden, there's something way better at the end. What's the verse? Give me a second. It's a verse about perseverance. Persevere until the end. I can't think of the verse. But what we have that awaits us is so much better than the Garden of Eden. It's kind of Eden refined. That's kind of a recurring theme. Like Jesus was a better version of Adam. Jesus was a better version of David. The millennial reign, there's all kinds of varying opinions about this. When Jesus comes back and reigns for 1,000 years, some people say it's then, some people say it's in heaven, but it's an upgraded version of Eden, because Jesus raises the bar for everything. He improves everything. He restores everything. He makes all things new. So my little bullet points here. This is where I wrote down the story about Moses. Because God's character perfects things. That's why that works. Because Jesus is such a great mystery. I think he was unforeseen. Even though they had all the prophecies about him, he was unforeseen. And the way that he works, it was a mystery to everyone. But the reason that he was a mystery to the Jews who knew the prophecies and they should have recognized him is because they were looking at the world through those lenses, through those filters, through those blinders, through their mortal condition, through their fallen state. So they could not see things clearly, through a lens dimly. The truth, God, like I say, when I'm trying to share, what I'm doing right now, when I'm trying to share the gospel, whatever, I have this beautiful, pristine pearl that it is perfectly white, and I'm trying to I see it and I recognize this is good and pure and holy, and I'm trying to hand it to whoever's willing to watch or listen. But when I hand it to you, like, I've got mud on my hands. I've got dirt. I've got blood on my hands. What I present to you, it's tainted. It's not pure because of my mortal nature, because of my sinful nature. So what you receive from me is not, it's going to be adulterated truth. And that sucks. And that ties into everything I've been talking about. That is so foundational. We are beyond the garden. We are fallen. And when we get to our ultimate beyond the garden, everything will be restored better than it was before. And that goes into being in God's presence and Him sympathetically reverberating through everything. And I'm still going. It's kind of like there are lots of things that like sympathetically reverberate, or sympathetic transfer of energy. Explosives work that way, like ham radios work that way, a Hardanger fiddle. And that, I have the word propagate because like you propagate a radio signal. And that ties right back into gardening. Propagating is taking a seed and sowing it. That's really interesting. It's funny how things like reveal and become self-evident as you're trying to search for truth. So there's one person watching, but I'm done. This is 36.5 minutes, and I'm talking in circles, and I was driving in circles. So I'm going to hang it up now. That's Beyond the Garden. It means many things, and that's it.